Hello, hello. I think I am live. Welcome. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I am Dr. Alex Barker, founder of the Happy Farm D, and today we are talking about jobs, remote jobs specifically. It looks like I'm not on Facebook, but I'm on LinkedIn and YouTube. So, welcome, people. Hi, how are you? Nice to be here. In this webinar, we'll be talking about really two things. Where are the jobs and who provides them? If you could, in the chat, please let me know where you're watching in from, where in the United States or Canada, or maybe somewhere way across the world. I'd love to hear where you're from. There's a little bit of delay on my end, so it'll take me a moment just to respond to questions or other things. But I'm really excited for this because in January, we started our first ever remote job boot camp. We started with pharmacists, and within the first couple of weeks, we had 2 interviews, 3 interviews by the end of the month. And some people are still looking to see what's out there and exploring. Others are applying to jobs. And I'm really excited to share what we're learning about remote jobs and about where people are finding them. Hey, Pearl. I like your name. Welcome from California. Hey, Nicole. Good to hear from you. Nice to see you. Good old Cleveland, Ohio. There's so many pharmacy schools in California and Ohio, right? Aren't there like 13 in both states? Hey, from Boston. I'd love to learn how to pronounce this name. NHI. English stinks. It's very confusing. I would guess knee, but I'm guessing that is incorrect. Hello, Alyssa from Georgia. And hey, Mona from Missouri. Nice to see you. And hey, Priscilla. I think I've connected with you before from Atlanta. I've seen some Dallas and Canada. Good to have you. Nice to see you here. So before I begin, I've prepared a few things about remote jobs. Knee is right. Oh, hey, thanks. It was a guess. It was a guess. I'd love to know, what questions do you have about remote jobs? Maybe you've been looking for a while. Maybe you've applied to a few jobs. Maybe you've even interviewed for some jobs. But what are your questions, your concerns? This is a safe place to ask questions, even if it feels like a dumb one or something where you're like, you know what, I apply to jobs and I don't feel like I'm considered for them, or I feel like I'm missing something from my application. What questions do you have about remote jobs? Because I want to make sure that I answer them. This presentation is short, and I want to make sure that I address any questions or big ideas that you have as you are looking for your next position. So, what questions do you have? A common question I get is, are they going away? um, how do I stand out in the market? A very specific one. How is Canadian market for remote jobs? Definitely smaller. Definitely smaller. I can answer that right away. I think there's about 10 times the amount of pharmacists in the United States by comparison, but there's still some that do exist. In fact, one of my first Canadian clients ever has a remote MSL job, but they exist. Any other questions? Here to learn, just here to observe what what you've got going on, Alex. That's okay with me. A couple of people from Ohio. Hey, thanks for checking in. Thanks for letting me know where everyone's from. I guess if there's no questions, I want to move on to my next one, which is, why do you want remote? What would a remote job give you that you don't have now? Is it you want remote for more flexibility with your schedule? You want to be able to visit family and do traveling on a different day and still be able to work while there. Is it lifestyle freedom? Is it a different pace? Is it getting away from the public? That's a legitimate answer. I know some people want that. Oh, hey, questions are coming in. Apologize for this. Seems like there is quite a delay. So I see questions about contracts versus full time, where to look for these remote jobs, contracting before offering permanent jobs. We'll get to these. Yes, flexibility, no commute. Oh my gosh, save yourself an hour and a half or maybe an hour a day. Absolutely. Work-life balance, working across the globe. Yes. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to travel to? Me, I'd love to know. My last world round trip was to Thailand for a conference, and it was a lovely experience. Work-life balance. I'm seeing that pretty commonly. Work-life balance. I'm curious, is the work-life balance because of stress, or is it that you like want to work less? Do you feel like the commute adds more stress into your life, less time with your family? Freedom of location and avoiding office politics. Yeah, I hear you. In my first ever official job after residency, Melanie, I was bullied by my mentor and boss at the time, and it stank. And it technically was remote, even though I had to go into the office to do the job. Michaela, are there specific experiences that remote companies are looking for in employees? We'll get to that. Brianna says better hours, being able to put family first. I think that this is a separate topic that I would deserves its own focus about work-life balance, putting family first. But that's not where maybe another day. Maybe another day. Thank you guys for sharing with me your insights and what you're looking for. And I hope that I can give you a little bit of guidance, if not maybe a little kick in the pants to making some progress towards, what you want to do for your career. I know that the job search cycle can sometimes feel like you work really hard for a couple of weeks, you apply to a bunch, you wait to hear back, you don't hear back, and you stop applying, you don't get interviews, or maybe you get one or two, and then they don't offer you the position, then you go back to work, all until a bad day happens, and then the whole cycle repeats itself over again. So whether it's a kick in the pants or some encouragement, my hope is that today this will be a little bit of fun and I can answer questions that you may have. If I'm saying something or if it's going over your head, if you're like, can you talk more about this? Or what do you mean by that? Don't hesitate to stop me. I've been teaching these things pretty consistently for the last 5 months, privately and publicly. And sometimes I jump over big concepts. So please feel free to ask questions. Please make sure to put a question in the chat as I see some people are commenting, which is great. Nice to see you. And thank you for guys for commenting and encouraging one another. I'm also seeing people wanting to connect with others, which is really cool. Keep it up. So what I want to do is I kind of want to answer the question is remote going away? And for that, I want to bring up some stats here. So work from home research. Around the pandemic, there was an organization I believe it's a nonprofit that does research on working from home. And they found that in 2020, 60% of the jobs were work from home. And in 2023, it became 25% of jobs. This makes sense. We know why that happened. We know that it would probably go back to the previous norm. But I bring up this point to say that working from home has not gone away. That should be FW. Work from home jobs, remote jobs are not going away. It is not the norm, right? 60% of jobs, but they're certainly not going away. And the National Pharmacist Workforce Study, which they do about every 5 years, showed that 23% of work from home jobs were more than 40 hours a week jobs. This was performed in 2022. And AmCare was the most common setting for work from home jobs. I'm not sure how they designate work from or ambulatory care, as I think you could even identify managed care jobs, some PBM jobs, some prior authorization jobs. I think some people sometimes, since it's clinical work, they would put AmCare into that, but I'm not sure exactly how they did that. So maybe that's inflating the numbers a little. But I want to point out this data that's published to say, like, okay, the real truth is that remote jobs are not as common as every other kind of job. In my own estimate, because I look at job boards about, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week for clients, I would venture to say that they account for maybe 10 to 15% of the jobs that I run across. Now, I don't see every job that's posted out there. My friend Kevin Miro over at JobRx tells me that they get thousands and thousands of jobs posted on their website every week. And I don't know if he's tracking how many, but the vast majority of jobs are still community and hospital. So we are talking about something that it's not common, it is rarer, and the competition for these things is getting fiercer. So I want to ask the question. Actually, I'll pose it to people here, because some people here have been looking for a job for a while. Where are you commonly seeing remote jobs? What industry or fields? Is it pharma, AmCare, hospital, remote order entry, prior auth? What jobs do you see commonly are remote jobs, or maybe jobs that you've even been applying to? And the coolest place to be from attending tonight award goes to Pamela Boss. Hey, Pamela from England. Nice to see you here. Whereabouts in England? I haven't been there in a few years. I would love to return. Oh, and Pamela, look at that. You're engaged. Yes, insurance jobs, definitely. Yes, Priscilla Pharma, PBMs, prior auth, PBMs, prior auth, prior auth, prior auth, prior auth. Yeah, a lot of prior auth jobs. Interesting. I'm guessing then that a lot of people who are looking at prior auth are probably those with a community pharmacy background. So, in our experience, in our research, the most common jobs that we see for remote providers are these categories: specialty, long-term care, remote order, managed care, telehealth, PBM, industry, which is pharmaceutical industry, and digital health. Excuse me. Now, of course, there's other places, right? These are the ones that we see people the most getting that want to get into. I would say AmCare fits within telehealth, although interestingly, a lot of the AmCare clients that we work with typically are looking for a career shift, and some do take remote AmCare jobs, but many of them are wanting a career change for a change of pace. They want different kinds of work, or they enjoy project-based work over patient care. Nothing wrong with a change. Absolutely not. Anything here surprise anyone? Sometimes I get a question of, like, what's the difference between telehealth and digital health? Now, one thing that stinks about healthcare in general is that we're very bad at calling niches within our industry what they are and not deviating from them. Things blend a lot. Some people think managed care and PBMs are the same. Some people think managed care and PBMs is within industry. So it's blurred lines. I think of telehealth as patient care jobs, essentially. Amcare jobs where you are directly interacting with patients, providing care, insight, advice, guidance, education. Digital health, I like to think of more broadly as anything involving digital health, informatics. More, I can't. I'm laughing at myself because I just used the word in the definition of the word. uh, what is specialty? Well, specialty pharmacy is anything that has to do with specialty care. Digital health, I like to think of as informatics jobs. I like to think of it as jobs that are involved typically in startups. Sometimes telehealth fits within digital health, sometimes not. It's typically not always healthcare that is involved with, or I'm sorry, companies and programs that are not always involved with direct patient care. Tracy, were you saying that pharma surprised you as something that is providing remote jobs? If you're looking for some inspiration here for watching later, I would encourage you to check out a recent podcast I did with Julie on our podcast, The Happy PharmD. You can check it on YouTube or I think most podcast listening apps, where we talk about how she got her remote job as an MSL, going from pediatrics to MSL role. I may be wrong about this, but I don't think she had a residency or certification, but you can learn more there. There is travel, of course, in a lot of MSL jobs, more so than other remote jobs like medical communications, medical affairs, regulatory affairs. So these are the sectors to be looking at. The thing to be looking for, quite simply, when going to a website like Indeed.com, and I'm not sharing my screen. I thought I was. Maybe we'll look at that later because I don't want to stop sharing my screen right now. So when looking at any of these to find these kinds of jobs, there's two specific ways that I would encourage everyone to do. And here's a gold nugget for maybe today. One, of course, is looking at job boards to seeing where current openings are, but that's where everyone else is looking. My encouragement for people here is to start looking up companies and connecting with people at these companies that provide these remote jobs. Some people have sent me private messages about these, but we know a lot of these companies, particularly in managed care and PBMs. We're seeing a lot of people very interested in these jobs: Cigna, Humana, Centene. These companies provide a lot of telehealth remote jobs. And by researching these companies and connecting with them, you are more likely to get job interviews. More on that here in a few minutes. So in general, these are where the majority of the remote jobs are that we have observed from our experience helping pharmacists get these kinds of jobs. So let's talk about the process. How do you get them? How do you stand out in the market? There's three things I believe I want to talk about today. Probably more, but there's three simple ideas here. One is your application in the ATS, or the applicant tracking system, the much hated AI system that rules most people out from getting asked for an interview. I want to talk about networking. And then finally, I want to talk about interviewing and negotiating. Now, one of the things that this kind of is an all-encompassing idea here. But if you're wondering, is anyone else feeling like there's a lot that you don't know in pharmacy? There's a lot of career paths that you haven't heard of, you don't know much about, and Does anyone else feel sometimes a little stuck? Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to look. There's so much out there. I'm not sure where to even begin or how to get started. Is anyone feeling that way? I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Hey, Vera. Thank you for saying the first yes. Vera, you're hanging out in the wrong place. You're already in our community. You need to send me a message. Sorry, I'm just gently teasing you, Vera. Well, I want to make a really simple encouragement for everyone here. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. End of story. I don't know why I started off with that note. What I'm not ready to talk about yet is my life's work, my research project that I will be publishing here very soon. An assessment that analyzes what pharmacists find fulfilling. And what we've discovered here, I just want to tease a little bit about this, is that at our cores, there are things that we find fulfilling about work. And positive psychology has been researching this for the last about 50 years about what creates well-being in people, what makes people happy workers, what makes people engaged and brag about their work. Have you ever met a pharmacist who's like that's who they are, that they live and breathe pharmacy. They talk about it at the dinner table. They marry a pharmacist. Just kidding. Just kidding. I mean, I am a pharmacist, but what is that saying about my wife? Those people, those diehards, are living and breathing fulfillment within pharmacy. And at its core, positive psychology and my research has found core factors of what makes people fulfilled, what makes people happy. And it's things like positive emotions. Wow, amazing. It's being engaged with your work. It's having positive relationships. It's having a meaning attached to what you do where you don't feel like you're a constant cog in a machine. And at the end of the day, you feel like you're having achievement. And the one thing that I've been trying to spread the message of for about the last 10 months in my speaking engagements or going to associations is for you to find the small moments, even if it was way back in school, and reflect on what did I find most fulfilling about that? Remove the negativity, remove the work environment, remove the stress. If you could just go do this thing, educate a patient, help a patient solve a problem, improve a process within the pharmacy, teach a class, negotiate with a payer, analyze a prior authorization, do inventory, handle conflict, build leadership, whatever that thing is, could be a simple moment on your career journey to really reflect on and ask yourself the question about where can you follow your curiosity? Where could you go do that kind of work? Where in pharmacy could you do more of that? I remember talking to one pharmacist like back when I very first started. And he said the only thing that he really enjoyed about his retail job was the few times that he got to get into the weeds and figure out how to get around prior authorizations. He really enjoyed that. For me, ugh, 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 gross. I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. Different strokes for different folks, but he loved it. He was engaged. He built relationships with the prior authorization people at companies and payers. He enjoyed doing that. And he was referred to on the pharmacy team as the one to solve those problems. People called him up on his days off to ask him questions about how to do that very thing. He enjoyed it. Do you know what he's doing now? Prior authorizations. That's his full-time job. He loves it. He's enjoying it. In fact, he's moved around to 2 other companies since I worked with him simply because he gets offered new opportunities because he's enjoying the work. If you're struggling with thinking about how do I choose a career path? What do I begin to research? There's so much information out there. Where do I kind of narrow it down to focus on something small and tangible? Pick just one thing that you've done with your career as a pharmacist, or even something even outside of pharmacy, and ask yourself a creative question. Instead of where are the jobs, a better question is where could I do this job for someone else? And all sorts of new and interesting possibilities could come from this question. So now I want to talk about applications and where I feel like people struggle a lot. I'm already seeing some questions mainly on LinkedIn here. I'll have to pull some out here about experience. Here's one from Michaela. Our specific experience that remote companies are looking for their employees. So I want to talk about your applications and experience matching. I've talked about this in other places before, but at its core, every job application is kind of like a call out for the company to say, we are looking for someone who can do this. And what most pharmacists tell us when they look at a job, they look at the requirements or the preferences, and they rule themselves out. They discourage themselves from trying, applying, giving themselves, a legitimate chance as to what they could do. So I'd like you to adopt a new practice whenever you see a job that you're really interested in. It's 2 steps. If you find a job, let's say you're a hospital pharmacist and you want to get into medical affairs, but you've never had a medical affairs job. What do you do? Well, you take a look at the job that you're wanting to apply to, and you break down the tasks that they are saying this job will do into soft and hard skills. You either identify them as a soft or hard skill, and then you begin to reflect on where have I done this kind of activity? How can I demonstrate to them that I've done something like this? I think I have an example like this. Yes, I picked I picked a medical writer. So I screenshotted this from a job opening that I found. That was full-time remote, principal medical writer. The principal medical writer will be responsible for writing and editing of high quality, strategically aligned medical writing deliverables that support clinical development, safety, regulatory requirements, and clinical programs. So what's the hard or soft skill here? Anyone? There's going to be a little bit of delay here. Anyone know what this hard or soft skill is? It's pretty obvious, but maybe some don't know. Is this recorded? No. Your husband is very nice. You'll have to thank him for sending you here. It is being recorded, though. I should say that. This isn't recorded. Pearl, soft skills, communication, writing. Yeah, absolutely. Soft skill. You could argue this is a technical skill because it's a hard skill because it's technical. You're taking medical content and information and boiling it down or communicating it. It's a mixture. At its core, communicating, writing, and editing. If you were a hospital pharmacist in this example, you've provided medical education ad nauseum to patients and healthcare providers. This is true for community pharmacy. This is true for practically any kind of healthcare related job. You have done this. You could argue against yourself and say, well, I haven't created anything. I haven't written it down. Sure, no, but whenever you're educating someone, you're probably not reading off of the package insert. You ever see a student do that? I remember precepting a student once, and I remember them reading the package insert to a patient, and I remember being like, let me just answer the patient's question. No, you're not. You don't do that. You take from memory what you know. Maybe you look a few things up beforehand, but you communicate it. You communicate. And at its core, that's what you're doing, and that's what they're looking for. Yes, of course, it would be ideal to provide written information, but I would imagine that in your career, you have written maybe thousands of medical messages to providers. Maybe you have answered questions via email before, provided links, resources, information. Interesting. Communicating with medical providers to answer patient questions. At your core, you have valuable experiences, but it has to be positioned as something that is valuable to the employer. So it's about looking at your experience through their lens, thinking of them first, and trying to communicate to them what you've done that they care about most. I see some more questions here. I'll try to get to those at the end. The next thing I wanted to talk about was networking. I know everyone knows they need to do this. I know that practically every pharmacist feels like networking is sleazy. Anyone feel that way? Anyone feel like they hate networking, like they don't want to reach out to people, or you'd rather not message someone because you don't want to tell them that you're looking for a job? That feels awkward. You feel like networking is something people do when they want to sell you something. I used to feel that way. I used to not know what in the world I was doing. Asking people if they had any opportunities, not knowing how to talk to people. Yeah. It feels weird when I network wanting something in return. Nicole, I struggle with networking because people don't respond. I hate it. Yeah. Cold calling, it's the worst. It's a mess. Yeah. Out of my comfort zone. This is very normal. It should feel this way. It should feel uncomfortable when talking to people. I feel like there's an eye roll on the other end. Yeah. Networking is uncomfortable for a lot of people because, well, number one for pharmacists is that we're a service-oriented profession. We want to help everyone else first before we help ourselves. And whenever we need help with something, it comes across as it's hard or it's difficult to do, because you're feeling like you're asking for a favor, especially from people you've never met before. So why do it? Why is this so important? I think, oh yeah, I have it right here. According to research from 2023, referrals are 4 times more likely to be offered a job than website applicants, from one source. Employee referrals account for 30 to 50% of all hires. I didn't pull it for this presentation, but for another one that I've done, the stats were 4% of all hires across the United States were received through job posting websites. 45% of all hires were found through employee referrals. According to that stat, you are 9 times, 10 times more likely to be offered a job if you just network and you get a referral from someone versus applying to a job online. I'm not a gambling man, but if I had $1 extra, not a lot of money, but if I had $1 and I would put it on the 4-to-1 or the 9-to-1 bet versus the 1-to-1 bet. Michaela, I found most of my jobs through networking, but I still don't like it. Yes. And Pamela, it's easier to network when you're introduced to someone who you already know. Yes. So I want to share a couple of ideas that I've learned, and I feel like a lot of our clients apply when networking. And one is the introduction method, exactly as Pamela says here. I'm connected to like 30,000 pharmacists on this platform. It's a little silly how many people follow me on this platform. Not that like I think that's silly, but like the amount of people. And I try to talk to everyone, but I don't know everyone who's connected to me. It's an insane amount of people. There's over 300,000 pharmacists in the United States. And I'm connected to like 10% of them. That's crazy. But something that I do for our clients is that if you find people working at a company that you really want to work for, is that I make introductions for you. And that can start up great conversations, which lead to this ever elusive job referral. So when you're looking up people on LinkedIn, in fact, I'm going to do this now so that I can show you what this looks like. That when you are looking for a job on LinkedIn and let's say that you want to work for, I don't know, Prime Therapeutics. You can look up all of the people that you're first degree connection with. So people that you're already connected to on this list. And if you don't know anyone, then you can see who you're connected to as a second degree connection. And if I were to look on this page of people, I would see all of the people that I'm first degree connections with. And from this list of first degree connections, I would look to see who do I know the most, or who do I know the best, or who owes me a favor. And I would simply ask if they'd be willing to introduce me to this person. That is the best and easiest thing to do. It's so simple, and yet few people think to do this. And the reason why you want to network with them is not because you're looking for a job, but because you are a valuable candidate and you want to find out exactly what's going on at this company. How do they like it? What's happening there? What sort of things can you learn about that company way before you even officially interview, so that your interview can be that much more intelligent and conversational, and you can be asking tough questions better than any other candidate. And secondly, I think I would want to hopefully shift your perspective of networking. If the way you're networking is by randomly messaging people on LinkedIn that you are doing something, or you're looking for a job and you're wondering if you can have a conversation with a manager, which is the last and worst and least effective networking method that you could do. Please don't ever do that. Why does that feel bad? Why is it feeling scammy, sleazy? Well, it's because you're approaching it from a place of want and desire without any kind of relationship. It's kind of like the pickup artist bros. I know there's a lot of females in our audience. From the comments, at least I'm noticing female names, or typical names. But since I'm a male, I've run across a few pickup artists in my time. I'm happily married. I'm not looking for it, but I think it's always funny to find these people because their approaches to picking up girls is atrocious. And it's like it works 1 out of 200 times. These pickup artist gurus teach men who are not confident how to approach women, and they give them these pickup lines and are like, yeah, go up to these people and say these things. And it's uncomfortable. It's gross. It's yeah, you know, but that's what so many people are doing on LinkedIn. You randomly find people who work at a company, you reach out to them and you say the question like, hello, I've applied for this job and opening. I would look forward to the opportunity to speaking to you about it as I think I'm a great candidate. Ugh, gross. Please stop this. Don't do that. You're hurting your chances. You're going to get ignored. The best thing that you could do is to have an approach of sharing, of reaching out to these people even before you apply. Because if you, yo, Sam, thank you for backing me up here. Yeah, no, there's other guys here too. Have you seen the pickup artist bros? Sorry, getting distracted. At the heart of our profession is relationships. It's what we value the most. It's what probably half of the pharmacists tell us what they want to be doing in their next job. I want to work with people. I want to be in a team. I want to feel like I'm actually making a difference for my patients or my colleagues' lives. And if that's the case, then start conversations from a genuine place on LinkedIn and share your life. Share what's going on. Share that you're curious about a career change and you find other people who've done it, who've had the courage to do it. Sam here, who I just highlighted, is someone who's done that. He's moved on from, I think, retail to consulting. And now I believe, Sam, you're working on your own long-term care business. And the way he did that was through networking, through building genuine connections, having tough conversations, reaching out to people, and yeah, being rejected. But a note on that, Nicole, I hear you. Networking and feeling like you don't respond. I think at the heart of that is attaching so much value to your message to people that when you send it out, you're hoping that every single person responds. But the truth of the matter is that everyone is super busy. Do you respond to every single email that you get? If you do, you're awesome. Like, way to go. But I don't have time. And that's true for practically everyone. Another huge beginner error I see people doing too is that when they initially outreach to others, is that they don't follow up. They send a message and then they don't say anything afterwards. I get texts from my best friend and I look at them and then I get distracted. I look at something else, I move on to something else, and I forget to respond. He's my best friend. He's my bro. He's my buddy. I would drop everything for him. And yet I forget to respond to him. People are busy, so don't be afraid to simply just follow up with a simple message. Hey, did you get my message? That's it. The way to get a remote job right now, the way to stand out from all your competition is not by hiring a resume writer, not by getting a certificate or a residency or something else. It's by building relationships. It's by getting to know people. It's by showcasing your expertise in the right way for a company to see it be insanely valuable and worthy of having an interview. That is how to stand out in today's marketplace, because everyone wants a remote job. And this new generation that's coming into the marketplace is refusing to work at most of the jobs that are available, i.e., hospital and retail. And on top of it, all of you pharmacists out there who didn't get a residency and tell yourself that you aren't a valuable candidate because you didn't get a residency are wrong. Not only are you wrong because you have a doctorate of pharmacy and you're very hyper intelligent and you've done a lot you may not give yourself credit for, but on top of that, the new trend now that residency trained pharmacists are being told, I'm really trying hard not to swear because I get so frustrated by this, is that they're being told that a residency only trains them enough to do a staff level position. The new dogma that's being purported is that residency trained pharmacists don't have enough training to be clinical pharmacists. So, without getting into that, you have enough experience, you have value. We have helped pharmacists go from retail community pharmacists for years become MSL jobs, one of the most competitive and arguably more challenging jobs to get in the marketplace that are remote. Sometimes there's usually a lot of travel. You don't need more training. You do not need more certifications. Yes, it can help. And for those of you here that got that, I'm not trying to say that to devalue what you've got. I'm trying to communicate this to everyone else who doesn't have it. Don't let it stop you from applying to jobs. Please, please, it's an imaginary barrier. And so with that, I want to take some Q&A, but before I do want to invite anyone who hasn't applied already to our remote job bootcamp. We'll be starting up in a few weeks. You'll be working with me one-on-one, but also in group sessions where we will be helping people apply and get a remote job. This is going to be a lot of fun. Not only because I'm going to be helping you narrow down different places to look in the market that work for you, highlighting what makes you great and showing companies what makes you great on your resume and application, but making networking easier, getting job referrals easier, and ultimately making progress towards a career that you're happy and satisfied. Ideally remote, of course. I've been now working with our first remote job bootcamp for the last 3 months. And like I said, we've already gotten four interviews. Let's see, 7 informational interviews, 2 job offers. And that was way faster than I anticipated. So with that, we are going for round 2. And I'm really excited because in round 2, I'm going to have some help. Oh, I feel so good about this. We're going to be introducing a new career coach into our program who'll be working closely with me and helping candidates with your applications and interview skills, as well as helping out in the coaching sessions. Oh, it feels so good to have someone. We do have coaches right now, but all of them practically have full-time jobs. So I need some more help, and I'm very excited about that. If you're looking to apply to the Remote Job Bootcamp, send me a link on or send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll have my executive assistant probably send you a link to the application with a little bit of details, who will be messaging you on my behalf. Last time I did this, I think I got like 50 messages and I got overwhelmed. So my executive assistant will be helping me out with that. It's really easy for me to get overwhelmed with messaging. It's really easy, not my specialty. But again, if you're looking to do that, it is an application process. We want to make sure that this is right for you. And this is a process that we want to help people get jobs as quickly as possible. But we also want to respect if you are in a place where maybe you don't know what you want, and that's okay. You know, one of the things that I've recently discovered as CEO of the company is that I used to brag that we would help people get jobs in like 5 months after starting our program. And at first I was like, dang, that's a long time. And I started to dig into the data and I realized something very powerful, that for a lot of our clients, a lot of them have no clue where they want to go or what they want to do. Many of them say, like in interviews on our podcast or in our testimonials, things like, I didn't know that I wanted to be in medical affairs or in academia or in management or operations or whatever. And that process takes time. It takes sometimes people 2 to 3 months to really nail down exactly what they're going for. But once that's nailed down, everything else happens that much faster. So if you remove that time, on average for the last couple of months, I mean, we've been helping people get jobs in about 2 months. So if you already know what you want, hey, come on in. Let's get you a job quickly. But don't be afraid as well if you don't know what you want and you're willing to look into other things. So now what I want to do is do some questions. Oh, and by the way, for the Remote Job Bootcamp, just send me a message on LinkedIn. If you're watching on YouTube and this in the future, we'll put a link to my my LinkedIn page. Feel free to send me a message, and my executive assistant will get back to you. So I want to take a few questions. I saw some earlier. Michaela asks a really insightful question here. A lot of remote jobs are contract based. Are there more full-time positions available? It depends where you look. Excuse me, and what kinds of jobs. So the more typical jobs that are kind of easier to hire, there's more competition for, but there's less like preferences for these jobs. Are things like prior authorizations, a lot of telework, remote order verification jobs, a lot of what is it? Staffing on the go. A lot of these temporary staffing agencies hire for these jobs. In terms of numbers, I don't have hard data or numbers to present to you. Normally, because when I'm looking for a job with a client, I'm like looking for very specific jobs, very specific companies. But if someone is open to those jobs, then yeah, we're okay with contract work. But the key thing to note about if you're going into contract work, you should take note that like as soon as you accept a contract, you should be looking for your next job, because contracts don't last forever, and that's fine. That's the way life is for a lot of industries have contract work. Pharmacists just hate it because we're risk averse. We want a stable, 9-to-5 job, benefits, all of that. Mona says, what's the best venue to look for remote positions? If you're looking for job sites, any of them work. I would recommend not just looking at one. I would look at probably all of them. Indeed, JobRx, Glassdoor. However, as I've kind of, I think, hopefully convinced you and laid out in this webinar, just applying to a job through a job board is like gambling. Like you may win a few times, but the majority of the time you're going to lose, i.e. not get asked for an interview. So the best venue, in my opinion, is nail down what career path that you're really interested in, find companies that are doing that kind of work, make connections, network, get job referrals. Statistically, you are way more likely to get a job. Hey, Nicole. Have you heard of any remote jobs that are contracting prior to hiring you permanently, concerned with having a family and not wanting to find another job a few months later? I would not say I've heard of many people that do this. Some do. We just had a client, Vincent. I forget how to say his Italian name. He's gonna be on the podcast in a couple of weeks, but Vincent had that situation. He was offered a contract role in Med Affairs, I believe, and then it became permanent. And technically, if you think about it, practically everyone gets hired on contract, right? Not everyone, but many companies hire on what's called a probationary period. I remember when I worked at the VA, I remember being on probation in the beginning, and I felt like I was in trouble. It was a very concerning feeling because I was like, well, what have I done wrong? It was super weird. I really did not like it because I felt like if I did one thing wrong, I was going to be let go, which is not normally the case, but this is how a lot of companies operate. Are there specific experiences that remote companies that are looking for in employees? Really, really depends on the job that you're applying to. I would say that we haven't found a trend. Like they're not looking for, at least in our industry yet, they're not looking for things like that you've worked with AI technology or coding. They don't ask for things like Google Drive or Microsoft Office. A lot of people include that in their resume. I don't think it's really all that valuable. It's kind of wasted space on a one-page document. Sarah asks, can an MBA after farm degree? It's been an hour. Okay. Can MBA after a pharmacy degree and 3 years of experience help in having a pharmacist remote job opportunity? It couldn't hurt, but if you think that that's your ticket to getting a remote job, I would say that's a very convoluted and expensive endeavor to try to get a remote job. You could get a remote job now without the MBA. It is not needed. Unless you're getting the, I have my own opinions about MBAs. I'm trying to be factual here. I think that the MBA can be helpful in pharmacy for leadership or management positions, particularly in operations. But an MBA doesn't make people better leaders. That hasn't been documented or really proven. So I no, I would not advise getting an MBA. That's a very expensive way to try to get a better or a remote job. Okay. I think that's a lot of the questions. My husband keeps on getting those you don't qualify because you didn't do residency. This is a first. Never had a wife of a pharmacist on. Are you also a pharmacist? And when I saw your last name, by the way, I want to say Airbender. Any Avatar Last Airbender fans here? I've been watching it since I was, I don't know, a teenager. Keeps on getting you don't qualify because you didn't do a residency. Yes. So two things, a couple things on this. A residency is basically a 1-year training program, right? I don't know if it's true anymore, but what we used to say just 5 years ago before the pandemic was that 5 years experience in pharmacy, or 3 sometimes, is equivalent of a residency. However, now there's so many residency trained people that they've started up their own dogma that it's totally unequivalent. So what do you do if you don't have a residency? Well, number one, are you applying to the right jobs? Because if you're like a hospital or retail pharmacist and you're applying to like a cardiology position or an ICU clinical pharmacy position, yeah, you're not going to qualify. It's a very specialized role. But if you're applying to a MSL job, a prior authorization job, a managed care job, PBM job, then In some places, they may deny you because they're maybe looking for someone specific, but it is not true industry-wide. Your job as the candidate is to convince the employer why you deserve a shot at this job, why you are a great candidate, even though maybe you don't have this. Would you be able to apply to the boot camp if you're Canadian? Yes. I don't see why not. They have Canadian remote jobs. If you've already done the Happy PharmD, can I do this too? Yeah, you can do it. I'm not sure when you did this or what program exactly you did, Pamela, but send me more details in a message as to what exactly you did. As you're I love the last name, and I feel like that would have stood out to me if you were an actual coaching client of ours, because I like fun names, but I don't recall. I hate to say this, but maybe you joined when I was depressed. I was depressed for like a year, and actually 2 years, like in 2021, 2022. So that could have been when, and maybe why I don't remember your name. I apologize. Who's your new career coach? I don't know yet. I'm so excited. I'm interviewing a bunch of people this week right now. We were interviewing people previously, but we realized something. Actually, it was a really nice lesson for me. We were interviewing pharmacists to be this career coach, but I realized something. I realized that for all the pharmacy candidates we were having, that they weren't competent. They weren't trained coaches. So we are only interviewing professionally trained coaches, and I will provide the pharmacy guidance because I'm a pharmacist. And we also have other pharmacists on staff as well. It is time for the Happy PharmD to grow up a little bit and hire trained professional coaches who have gone through programs and have had results for others. We are still going to keep our pharmacist career coaches that we do have. They're some of my favorite people. I love them. And they are trained to the standards, but we actually had to recently let go of quite a few people, unfortunately, because the results that we were getting weren't the best. So I don't know who the next career coach is, but it's going to be an actual career coach, and I'm very excited. What's the trend on pharmacy informatics? I don't know, Jason. I don't know. Check out the news. I don't know. There's so much to say. AI. Are you talking about the recession? I would say, from my perspective as a career coach, that the thing I'm most concerned about with pharmacy informatics is the firing. As not always, but typically, pharmacy informatics roles are usually some of the first roles to get let go during budgetary constraints. So I'm concerned about a few of my friends. And I know that many of them also get pushed out of informatics and into clinical work because a lot of them have clinical backgrounds. And the hospital says, well, this is what we need you to do. This is, so they get pushed into clinical works. Brianna, as someone who with a residency, I continue to get auto rejections too. Yeah. Remember, 4% of people get hired through online job boards. Talk to people, build relationships, get job referrals, move around the system. Is it really possible to get prior auth experience without a prior auth job? Yes. I've done it before with others. I can do it for you. Unless, like, you refuse to do, I don't know, things, or you're a criminal. Are you a criminal, Denise? Because if you're a criminal, I don't think I'm going to work with you. But yeah, this is practically all we do at the Happy PharmD is, I mean, yeah, sometimes we help people do career transitions into jobs that are similar to what they do because they love the work and it's a better work environment that they're getting into. But the vast majority of people get into jobs without prior experience. Is it really possible? Man, that's a hard question. It feels like a question coming from a pretty negative space, right? Like uh, maybe you've tried for so long and you're like, this guy, I don't know what he has to say, but it can't be true. Denise, I would encourage you just check out one interview from our podcast. Pick a job that sounds interesting from like the list of guests that we've had. Not everyone is a client that I interview on the podcast, but I don't know, 60 to 80% of them are. And just listen to their stories. Many of them have not had jobs in the areas that they're in right now. So Daphne, can you join the boot camp as a physician assistant? Well, I'm the Happy PharmD, and at one point in the future, I will expand into healthcare. But right now, we're doubling down on pharmacy. I actually don't know one. I don't know anyone in the PA world. Legally, there's no reason why you couldn't join. I don't know why I brought up legal. You could definitely apply. We know a lot about job market. I probably would give you like a reduced rate, Daphne, just because we're not proven physician assistant career coaches. But the same principles apply. Same principles apply. What about jobs that require certification for IT? What about them? Like, would I be able to help you get around it? I can't think of specific names, but I do know of people who got jobs that said on the job posting that they were requiring certain things like residency, certifications, and they didn't have them and they got the job. I know that because I remember coaching people. I just can't remember who because I've coached hundreds of people. I'm sorry, I'm falling short here on that question. But I mean, if that's the question you're asking of like, do I really need to get a certification? No. If you're thinking you need a certification based on the one job you look at that says that it needs it, then you're probably coming from the wrong place about a job. The only time to really get a certification is if your company will pay for it or you're insanely curious about getting it. If you're getting a certification because you're hoping it will give you job security or it will help you get a job, I would highly encourage thinking this way. Because every time people get ad certificates, it doesn't necessarily qualify you for certain things. In fact, there's I didn't put it in this presentation because it didn't feel relevant, but there's documented research in pharmacy that says that the majority of jobs do not prefer or require certification. So you don't need it. But if you want to learn about it and you want to take a class about it, go for it. You know, don't let some weird random guy on the internet tell you what to do. What if it will bring more confidence? Yeah, everyone tends to think that way, Vera. Everyone thinks, well, once I pass this test, then I'll be confident. Then I'll be an expert. But here's the problem. And here's what recruiters and hiring managers and executives tell me about certifications. Great. What have you done with it? What if I told you I read hundreds of books about coaching and I've taken hours of training about coaching. Would that trust you that I know what to do for your situation? Maybe, but probably not. But what if I told you a story about a pharmacist that I helped because I coached them and I helped them get results and I helped them get a job? Would you trust me then? Probably a little bit more, right? It's why I tell people in our resume mastery class, don't put that you're a part of a state association if all you've done is paid your dues. Great. You know, like, good for you, but what did you do? How did you participate? Did you just sit on the sidelines and kind of just say, take my money, association? I wish you the best. Or did you go to meetings? Did you go to drug take back days? Did you go to Capitol Hill? Did you volunteer? Did you go to the conference? Did you present at a conference? What did you do with that education, that experience? Because if all you get is there's like, I have a client right now who's wanting to get into medical affairs. He has one of those medical affairs certificates. And I specifically about this one, I have MSLs, MSL directors who have said, if I see that certificate on a resume, I don't even consider it. I don't even consider it. So it's hurting their chances. That is anecdotal evidence. But I think this game of more letters after your name is an excuse. It's a roadblock to make you feel like you can do a job when everyone here is a freaking, I'm sorry. I know it's not really a swear. I get mad about this. You guys are pharmacists. You guys are so intelligent. You're smart. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're great people. You don't need more education. You don't need more of it. You can figure it out. You could convince a company that you could go do a job because you've passed your boards. You passed your law exam. Some people will argue against me and say, well, no, we need certificates in geriatrics to ensure that we're providing great care in this long-term care facility. Great. Go find another long-term care job. Okay. Don't look at their company because they're setting the bar super high and they can be picky. So let them be picky. You know how many times? Okay. Oh, has anyone else worked with a dumb pharmacist before? Maybe you think you can think of someone. Maybe you thought, wow, that's not someone I really like. Maybe that's someone who I think is making bad decisions. That may be true. I bet some of them maybe even have residencies or certificates. I'm not trying to say that every pharmacist are dumb. Don't misquote me here or take me out of context. What I'm trying to say is that more education, more certification, more of these things doesn't make you necessarily a better, highly qualified candidate for a job. It just doesn't. They may consider you, but it doesn't guarantee or increase your chances statistically. The best thing that everyone here can do is build genuine relationships, be genuine, be authentic, build relationships, help others, and find out other places that you can go. This is already, 10, this is already 15 minutes over, and I got really sidetracked here about certificates. Hey, Vera, you just need to have a conversation with me outside of this webinar. I'm going to wrap this up because I got a little bit too heated. Thank you for watching this webinar. I hope I helped you gain a little bit of clarity about things that you could be doing to find a remote job, where they are, and what to do to realistically start your journey or your path. If you'd like to do this faster or quicker than what you would on your own, then work with us. We're career coaches, and we love helping pharmacists make career choices that make sense for them, helping them do work that matters and makes the most sense. To get access to or apply to our boot camp, send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll give you a link to an application. And if you're here to the very end, This is something that I've teased in other places, but I'm happy to now. We have a list of about 90 different companies that are hiring remote jobs for pharmacists. Just send me a DM for that, and I'd be happy to give you a link to our resource. Thank you again, everyone. I am so sorry that I got sassy and I kind of PG swore there. I hope you forgive me. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week. And until I see you in the next video or next webinar, take care.